Hello, welcome to Project Pack number 21 in the Zentangle Project Pack series. My name is Martha.
And I am Molly.
Hi, Molly.
We're so excited. This is our final day of the series.
Yes.
I feel like it's gone so fast.
I know, so many amazing explorations and the journeys we've had and the places we visited.
So this is our last day in the collection of specimens for our Tangles of Botanical Nature. I'm sure that all of you are filled with thoughts and ideas and processing and creations, and perhaps you're already going out on your own on this theme, which is really, really fun. And we've been thrilled to be able to share sort of this very imaginative project pack with you, where we're exploring organic tangles, or more importantly, taking all kinds of tangles and making them organic and of botanical nature. We're going to get started in just a minute here. Have anything else to share before?
Just as usual, if you do not have this project pack materials with you, you are certainly welcome to join us with whatever you might have at home. And we will be using, it's just a reminder, we will be using this project pack number 21 envelope in the final lesson to wrap this up, so to speak.
Which is the next one. So
yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
So please don't throw that away.
Yeah, and all these beautiful tools, I think we're using a lot of them today.
Yes, definitely.
We'll be using them.
All right. So we've had quite a bit of fun discovering this next specimen that we're going to put in our field notes here. But before we get to that, we thought maybe we'd just take one last moment to appreciate all of our materials and to just have a moment of gratitude for things that are good in our world. So as we begin, we're going to start with our pencil, and we're going to just lay down a string that will help us properly place all of the elements of this amazing specimen that we found. It's kind of a weed, I guess. Would you call it a weed?
Well, it grows wildly on its own. A weed is I feel bad for weeds, because who decided that was gonna be? But unfortunately, this plant has weed in the title.
It does.
Yeah.
But we're gonna love it anyway.
We've talked a lot about pokeroot and dandelions and all the weeds in the world that we love. So yeah. I don't know.
All right. And so with our pencil, we are just going to give ourselves a little guide by drawing a gentle curved string like that, just as a stem reference. And then I'm going to pick up my 01 black pen. And this weed has kind of this crazy blossom at the end of it. And so we're actually going to start at the top, and then we'll go to the bottom and finish that later. So we have this kind of cool blossom at the top, which is, we're going to use a tangle that's a tangle of a tangle of a tangulation of a tangle. And its origins are in the Tangle well, but this one is actually a tangulation of the tangulation.
Right. It's like we're talking about our distant ancestors, and then we're in the present here.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to realize that this sort of blossom pod is going to be living at the top here. And I know already that it's going to go a little bit beyond my string. So I'm going to just have this little anchor point that I'm giving myself to shoot for when I'm working on this stem.
And as usual, we always encourage you all, especially with these unknown things, to sort of just watch.
Yeah, we're going to be creating some interesting shapes and lines. So, of course, feel free to watch first. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put two kind of orbs to anchor the center of this pod. And I don't know, they're about the size of... What would you say those were about the size of?
I would say that's about the size of
That's about the size of it,
yeah,
is what it is.
That's
about the size of it. All right, and so this is where the well inspiration comes in. So I'm going to focus on this orb right here. And what I'm going to do is travel around this orb using the takeoff and land technique. And I want to land on my stem down here. And I'm going to do that by traveling around and then taking off and landing on this pencil stem.
Israeli couscous.
Yes, that's really what it is. That is really what it is. All right, so here I go. I'm taking off on this lovely orb, and I'm landing on the stem.
And it's really important to pay attention to the direction you're traveling around your orbs at this point in time. So really take your time. And
this one was traveling clockwise, and I'm now going to sort of mirror that experience over here, traveling counterclockwise around the orb and landing. Traveling on the orb, taking off, and landing. And always your lines have these curves and angles that can be uniquely yours, but as you follow along with us, we try to guide you in a direction that will feel good. So the next thing I'm going to do is sort of the opposite of that, and I want to aim for this spot up here, this little anchor that we left ourselves. So this time, taking off in that clockwise direction, but I'm going to aim for up here. Traveling around my orb, going right over those ink lines and landing up top. And now over here, we're going in the counterclockwise direction. I travel around my orb and then land up top.
Well, that's a sweet little shape.
It is a really pretty shape. Now we're going to continue with these types of graceful lines. I'm going back to this guy over here. I'm going to take off in a clockwise manner around this orb. It's getting a lot of work. And a gentle curve, but I'm stopping at my string line. And then on this side, I'm going to be taking off counterclockwise, landing on that line.
Sweet. It's very like, reminds me of like deck of cards, you know.
Oh yeah, like a spade.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Very cool.
So we're building this blossom now, kind of step by step. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some kind of a seed pod shape on either side. Again, you can feel free to watch me. I'm starting my line in the crook right here, gently going out and then going in. And then on this side, starting in the crook, gently going out and back in. And inside these pod shapes, I am going to add some orbs that nestle right into each other. You see how I'm not really drawing a full circle. I'm building off the one below it. And I'm squeezing in these little orb-like shapes to fit in the pod.
That really helps like identify the space. It's nice to do those.
Yeah.
Actually.
And if you wanted to fill in, tiny little interstices left behind, you're welcome to do that. And I'm doing the same on this side, squeezing that rounded shape into the space that this pod created, nestling them right up against one another and inking in any little corners that you see. From here, I'm going to notice that I have this leftover string here, and I'm going to connect my anchor point down to this V, kind of dividing that area in half. And I'd like to add a series of stripes going up the top of this pod. And I want to use these initial curved lines as my guide and aura that shape going up to the top.
And don't worry about going over the lines underneath it, because most likely you're going to cover some of it, and what you don't cover we can make up for in the shading. It's like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so don't stress about like where if yours doesn't land in the same place as hers or whatnot.
So you see I'm mimicking and auraing this line, kind of seeing this one here that I can't argue with, so I'm just going to cut the difference there like it's all part of the design. And then on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. So here with these stripings, I am going to start filling them in with some black ink. And starting with the bottom layer, just, oh, it must be 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock.
It's a wonderful reminder of different points in the day here where we are. The church bells ring at noon and at 6 and midnight. And I'm going to continue this black stripe on the other side, working our way up our little seed pod here. See how we can cover up that sneaky little line. It doesn't look like we disobeyed anything there, does it? From here, I'm going to put down my black pen. And I'm going to pick up my kind of peachy, warm-colored, pinky peachy jelly roll.
Brown-ish. I guess
I think it's peachy.
Peachy?
Yeah, well, we'll see. And I am going to fill in these orbs with this luscious gel ink, and kind of on purpose, I'm not really going all the way to the edge.
It's like a dark red peach.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the white, little tiny white space that's left in between.
I love that trick.
The black lines, and it gives it a little bit of a dimension, kind of gives the illusion of them standing up a little bit. So we started out with these round shapes, and now the way we fill them in just kind of, now, like, what is that shape?
Right.
I don't even know, but it's very,
Beautiful.
very pretty. And you're free to use the same color, or you can use the black ink, but I'm going to now shift to this gold pen here, just kind of enjoying using all these really fun colors.
Know, right?
And I'm going to create some vertical lines in this space that's left over. I'm going to start by just tracing over the string line here and kind of giving it that little suction cup anchor at the top. And it's a vertical line, but it's just got a little bit of an anchor at the top.
I love that, Martha. It's like really like unexpected. Very cool.
Just little extra bits of ink.
It's like it has purpose in this plant's growth pattern. They're like sort of like gills, I guess, huh?
Yes, it is gill-like. You can decide how thick your gill lines. I like that. It's good. It is like a stripe, but it's definitely suctioned to the top. And then maybe in these little round points here.
Lovely.
Yeah. So we'll revisit this a little bit later when we begin our shading process, but there's our nice little seed pod, our well pod.
Okay, Martha. Well, I love the well-inspired blossom. I think it's very special because it's very not expected as a blossom, and
There's
I think
a lot of potential there.
There is lots of potential here. And I'm not sure if we mentioned the name of this particular species yet, but it is, but it does begin with thorny. This is a very thorny plant, and you mustn't touch it.
Right.
or cut it.
It's not inviting to touch, only
Yeah.
to look at.
Yeah, but it's special and it has very cool virtues and things that it offers, but it is definitely not to be touched. And the reason is it's very thorny. We have chosen to share with you a tangle called locar, which is also one of those tangles that like we don't touch
We
a
don't
lot.
talk about it very much.
But it's a very cool tangle, and what's cool about it is it's a one-stroke tangle. Like you kind of do a lot of it with one stroke, and we're going to be doing a bit of a variation with it here. And as we say over and over again, I invite you to watch first, and then once you get the hang of it, we invite you to join along. I'm going to use this string line as a reference point because locar it's helpful to have a reference point, especially if I'm heading somewhere specific. And I feel like it also has references toward with it's a little vertigo-esque a little bit.
Yes, well, you'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use this string line to trace over, and then I'm going to be popping out to create sort of these little thorns. And then following the same line, I'm going to draw another thorn.
That's kind of back on itself.
Right, and then we land back to the stem. And then I'm going to do a thorn. And you can be rhythmic about this, or you can kind of, I mean, if you want to do one and then move a little further up and have it. It doesn't have to crisscross every time, but you have to land back on the stem.
You're right. It doesn't look very inviting to touch.
Do one more. So this is actually all one line, and then I want to land on this. So that's only half of our locar, which is kind of exciting. And now we're going to draw one on the other side. And this time I don't have a string line to kind of tell me where to go, but I'm just going to use this. I'm going to kind of create a mass as we go along so you can watch. If you want to do a pencil string line that's helpful for you, you can do that. So I'm going to use this sort of thickness and then a little thorn. This one will go up. Thorn.
It's nice you're leaving a little space in between. You never know what might be growing in those spaces.
Good point, Martha.
A lot of potential.
And like we said, it's all one big line, so it's a little threatening looking, but it's really just protecting itself.
It is. It's protecting the pod.
But what it needs to do. I mean, every plant has a purpose in our world, and this specific one has a very special purpose, and so it's very important. And I tried to like kind of play with them going, closer together or further apart, sort of have something going for them. So this is our locar. That is the kind of the core of our stem. But now we're going to invite in another tangle that's going to play with our locar, and we're going to do some poke root. That's kind of poking through.
It's poking through the thorns.
Yeah, so we're going to do some more like little, very thin little stems with a little cap, and then have them kind of nestle into in between.
They're sneaking in behind there.
Right. These are little tiny poke roots. Like almost like the thorns kind of protect them.
I like how your berries are kind of going in different directions too.
Yep.
Well, where we are, and as of today, there are some poke roots growing in the driveway right now.
There is, and it's so funny. Mom and Rick just let them thrive, and every year they get bigger and bigger. Literally growing out of the cracks. And you would think they'd the thorns would puncture these berries, but they don't. They take very good care of them. It's a fun way to think about tangles you haven't thought about for a while and how to combine them, layer them.
You could really have fun with even just taking all of these amazing specimens that we have worked with in this whole series and combining those together and
like making a little
hybrid garden of all these wonderful,
love that idea,
virtuous plants.
Very cool.
I love that.
So I think I am going to immediately go in with my my jelly roll, and this will take a little minute here, but I think it's like the effect is very powerful.
You're going to use that peachy terracotta one.
I am going to do that. I actually, I don't know. I'm thinking I might use the other one, actually. Thinking I'm going to use I was gonna do the goldish one, the peachy ones, but
Why don't you show them which pen you're using?
I'm using the, I changed my mind. I was thinking about it, and I was like, so one thing I want to do, a little trick on these berries, which I'm going to show you, is I'm going to leave a sparkle on them. And so I'm going to almost, in the beginning, sort of draw this little space and then color in around it so you get a highlight. Does that make sense?
That's a nice trick. Yeah, it's almost like a little smile you drew in.
Yep. And make it bigger than you think, because you can always make it smaller, but once you like the jelly roll kind of settles.
Like a half moon.
Yeah, I always make them bigger because you can sculpt it smaller, but you can't go back in unless you have a white jelly roll, I guess. So I think before I do my shading, I'm going to go back in and do a little adding some love. And I might even do it after the shading too, but I'm just going to kind of go in and darken some of this like stem side. See what I'm doing?
Yeah, it really makes a difference.
I think sometimes it's like the little bits of emphasis going over a line here and there. And then I'm going to do it on the underside of some of these too.
That's very good.
Oh, you're funny. And I might go back again afterwards to add a little bit more here and there. Sometimes these little interstices just to emphasize. I can go on and on, Martha. I just have to stop.
Put down the pen.
Put down the pen. Okay. And now I'm going to add some greenish, bluish to this thorny being because I think it needs some emphasis. So I'm going to grab my green and blue pastel pencils, and I'm going to do a combination of the green and blue and see how those two colors kind of speak with each other. So I'm going to start with the green on the stem. Sort of inviting it in to these thorns. I'm going to see what happens when I just put the blue on the tips, and then I might add a little more after, but putting them kind of intensely. And of course, especially right when you put these down, because I haven't used the tortillon on them, you want to just wait because they're very
kind of powdery a little bit.
Powdery, yeah. So just make sure you're not smearing your hand over them. Now I'm going to take my tortillon. I'm going to start to play around with, oh, look at it blends right in, Martha. That's awesome.
Very complimentary.
Right?
I can really see how those thorns protect those
Ooh.
berries.
I was looking at it upside down and now I like it even more. Very cool. They do protect those berries.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. All right, so we have those colors in. I'm going to add a little bit of shading on my blossom up here, which is such a abstract blossom, but I love how the well-who kind of comes to this point here. So I'm going to put a little bit of graphite here right over that jelly roll. Create this, make sure I have the right tortillon. They're all different colors at this point.
Yes, well, by the end of our project, we do have some well-loved tools, don't we?
Right? So this looks very cool. I like that. I'd been like thinking about that the whole time you were drawing, actually. It's very cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
Even make it a little darker.
Yeah, never be afraid to always go back, say, oh, I want to add graphite, even though I finished with that step a while ago. It's your art and creation. You can always go back with a tool that you've used previously and add a little more.
Adding a little shading here in the middle. And then I think I'll do the outsides. The way these curved stripes are just really invites that. And, you know, as we said before, don't worry about the going over the line because it really just disappears. And I think I might, thank you, add a little highlight here. It's always a little scary at first to do that.
I know, I was just going to say that it feels funny sometimes when you go with something that's so contrasting, but once you blend it in and step back and appreciate.
Excuse me for a moment as I try to find a tortillon that doesn't have anything on it.
Oh, good luck with that.
Well, okay, well, since we are out, I'm going to show you a little trick I sometimes do in a pinch. I actually just used the other side of it because I really didn't want anything. We were at the last day of our project back and we had contaminated all of our
Look at the difference that
pretty.
makes. It really does.
I love that. It's like having a new tortillon. It's not. It doesn't have a sharp point on it, but so
but
especially with the.
It still blends.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And then I think I'm gonna leave the pods because they I think they look really good just as they are. I guess if we wanted to, we could put a little depth.
I was thinking that.
Down there. And then I'm going to add some graphite over my green as well. Sort of actually right over that original string line, the first stroke we put down, which is kind of funny. Just putting a little bit here and there. Yeah, the graphite makes it have some, it makes it come alive, I think a little bit. It's not so pastel-y.
Indeed.
Right. And then maybe some shadows here and there.
Well, certainly, if you came upon this in the wild, you would stop and take notice.
Oh, you could only be so lucky. All right, I think that's pretty good. And then just before I hand this off to you, Martha, I'm going to add a little more black here and there just to, once you do the shading and stuff, you might want a little bit here and there.
Beautiful.
Very cool. Very exciting. I like this a lot. I'm going to go over this stripe a little bit. Emphasize the black.
Molly, I think this looks amazing.
Oh my God, I'm loving it.
Yes.
I especially love the gold berries. That was like a last minute change we did, and I think I'm loving that too.
Very, very special, precious berries.
Yes, I think so.
I'm looking at this whole wonderful specimen, and I'm gonna show everybody what the seed looks like for this incredible plant, and then maybe touch on some of the other elements that we have inside, just as a reminder and a reference when we go to look back at our wonderful
it's a fun
journal.
thing. Yeah, we didn't do it on all of them, but if you wanted to do that, I think that was really a cool thing.
I think the seed for this amazing weed that we say so lovingly is going to mimic these thorns. So I'm just going to have this kind of thorny crossover here.
I love that.
Yeah, and then also these little orbs that fit right in, these sort of very obvious little
like
seeds.
Germinating.
Yeah, these seeds are going to work. And just adding a little ink here and there. Doesn't need a lot of embellishment.
Cool. Very different.
Yeah, maybe we'll use that jelly ink here and fill those in.
So many options. So just remember, like, once you get this deep into something, it's like make your own choices that work with what you're doing. You might have a different opportunity, or that's fun.
Very simple. And some of the other elements that we were using here, and we didn't really talk about it because it was part of this well pod, but we did definitely use some striping. So I'm going to add some striping here. With my black pen, just to sort of resonates with what's happening, in the center space.
I love the idea of using these little triangular spaces to sort of explore the raw form of the tangles that, or at least some of the tangles you use. That's kind of a...
Yeah, and in fact, when you're just discovering your botanical creation, perhaps this is step one. This is like how you start to work out the elemental strokes that you're going to use in your creation.
Very cool.
Playing around with thinner stripes or thicker stripes, whatever happens to be in your little journal, kind of rounding those little edges, softening things here and there. And then, let's see, what are some of the other elements? We have some poke root berries, so we could just remind us of a simple poke root.
That's sweet. I like.
You like?
Yeah, I do.
Kind of hanging out there. Mm-hmm. And then we have that well stroke, that stroke where we have an orb and then wrap around, take off and land. This triangular space is perfect for
planting a little well.
Planting a well.
Oh, that worked out nice. Yeah.
Simple strokes. So maybe we can play around with a little color now.
Oh yeah, the backgrounds in these pieces have really been like an integral part. I think of like it looks really good right now, but I feel like once you put the backgrounds in, it's sort of
we're
like
gonna wake it up a little bit.
Ties it all together. Yeah.
So I'm picking up this rose madder pencil.
Very bold.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put some down on the edges. And, this might be something that you go back and forth with, maybe adding more later, but starting with a thin layer. And then with this yellow pencil, overlapping a little bit and then blending it into the center.
That's cool.
finding the right tortillon.
I know, you guys are probably like, you gave us a lot of tortillons, but then it's like,
You're like, wait, I could use more.
I know.
And I'm just gonna be kind of spreading this out kind of as much as I can, working it into the paper and blending the two colors together.
And you can always go back over little parts if you want to
Maybe adding a little bit more. A little back and forth. Again, just exploring that, maybe this is the first time you've used chalk pencils, or maybe this is the first time you've used yellow chalk pencils. I mean, just have fun with it. Make it your own. So we've put down some kind of fun and vibrant, warm colors here. And just going to take this graphite pencil and just add a little bit of shading around these little elements. Just a little bit of graphite goes a long way.
I like your palette here that you just picked the two pastel pencils and kind of ties it all together. That's nice.
Yeah, and then it's just a little bit of the graphite. It's all you really need, just to separate it from the white of the rest of the paper.
And we've been doing this on all of them, I believe, where we add a little bit of graphite to these pieces, and it's amazing that like the backgrounds really come alive with the little bits of graphite. It kind of like domes it or adds some detail around the edges of it, which is
yeah, we can put a little bit where these
I love
kind
that.
of creases are.
And you'll explore different ways to do that. Oh, look at that.
It's almost like it's just a suggestion, really. You know,
Right.
it's like you don't even recognize it as a different color. You just see that it's kind of pushing it in. There we go.
Oh,
So
I love
what are we
that.
calling this amazing discovery?
Well, Miss Martha, I think what's really special about it. Well, let's go with the name first.
Yeah.
So this very special plant is called the thorny wishing well weed.
Oh my God, such a mouthful.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Let's see if you can fit it there.
Yeah. Weed.
And what happens with the thorny wishing well weed is, and you can kind of see it in its structure, is when somebody is lucky enough to find themselves in the presence of a thorny wishing well weed, you get to make a wish. And
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
it's actually really cool. And the wishes are protected inside of these berries by these beautiful thorns. And this plant holds on to these wishes until they come true. And that is why you never, ever, ever, ever pick
Never pick
or touch
or touch or photograph.
the thorny wishing well weed, because you will mess with its ability for these wishes to come true. And I actually have heard from people that have seen a thorny wishing well weed that their wishes come true. And so I think there is so much hope and I think magic that's locked inside these beautiful plants. And I hope that someday you all will find yourself amongst the presence of a thorny wishing well weed.
All right,
Let's
so what do we
hear
say?
it.
Never to be picked or touched.
And if you find yourself amongst the presence of a thorny wishing well weed, you too can make a wish.
Right, so how you want to say, if spotted in the wild.
Awesome. And where you can find the thorny wishing well weed
Oh,
is
this
in
is the
a very,
best.
very cool place. And it is found where the sidewalks end and the forests begin. There's not a lot of more description on where this beautiful plant will show up, but if you ever find yourself where the sidewalk ends and the forest begins, you just might be lucky enough to see a thorny wishing well weed.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the particular tangles we used today were well, locar, pokeroot, striping.
Mm.
And I guess we used a little bit of orbs or tipple if you want to put those in there too.
Sure, why not?
Very cool.
So there we have our thorny wishing well weed with all of its wonderful elemental strokes
Full
and
of
virtues.
and full of wishes.
And
It's
full of
very
wishes.
full
This
of
one is very full
golden
because
wishes.
nobody has disturbed it.
Yeah, which is really special. So if you are lucky enough to find yourself in the presence of a thorny wishing well weed, I hope that you get to make a wish and that wish will come true.
Yes. So we wish you all a wonderful day and thank you so much for joining us.
And join us in the wrap up coming up soon.
Coming soon. Bye.